Hello, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking. Today I want to talk about Brazil and UFOs. So, Brazil is probably the most open-minded country on the UFO subject, and here is why. Okay? So, Brazil has been one of the most open countries when it comes to discussing UFOs and extraterrestrial phenomena. Over the years, the Brazilian government, military, and researchers have released numerous documents and conducted investigations into UFO sightings. Here are 10 examples to demonstrate Brazil's openness to UFO disclosure. Okay, the following. Okay, now, number one, National Archive for UFO Files. The Brazilian government has taken notable steps towards transparency regarding UFO sightings. They have a national archive, has systematically released documents related to nearly 900 UFO incidents spanning decades, from the early 1950s to I think about 2023. These files contain a wealth of evidence, including military reports, civilian testimonies, photographs, audio recordings, and radar data, confirming unexplained phenomena. Okay, so they've laid all this out. It's open to the public. Everybody can look at it. They can see it. They can feel it. They can touch it. Unlike many countries that continue to classify these reports, Brazil has constantly allowed the public access uh, previously restricted to this previously restricted information. This openness is a sign of Brazil's willingness to confront the topic head on, making it one of the most transparent nations when it comes to UFO disclosure. Number two, here's another example. Operation Saucer in 1977, which was an investigation in the Amazon. So it was one of the most extensive government-backed UFO investigations in history of the world, which this occurred in Brazil in the Amazon region in 1977, known as Operation Saucer. Its effort, it was actually investigated by the Brazilian Air Force and focused on alarming reports of unidentified flying object attacking residents in Claris, a small island town. Witnesses described bright beams of light descending from the sky, causing burns, dizziness, and even puncture wounds on human skin. The Brazilian military officers were dispatched, conducting, conducting secret observation and collecting data on the bizarre phenomena. So, so in 19, in I'm sorry, in 2005, former Brazilian commander Arrego Holanda, who led this mission, publicly confirmed that the UFOs encounters were real. Okay, so this was in 20, let me make this clear. That was 2005, and the event itself happened in 1977. So it's quite a few years later, over 25 or almost 25 years later, the Brazilian commander that was in charge said it was real. UFOs are real. That's what he said after all this investigation. So tragically, this guy I was telling you about, this commander, he was found dead and he died under mysterious circumstances shortly after giving his testimony, deepening the intrigue around the case. So nobody really quite knows why he died, but maybe he shouldn't open his mouth, but he did. And that's, we should be grateful for that he did open his mouth. Declassified Air Force reports. So over the years, Brazilian Air Force has continued declassified records about UFO activities, including documents from air traffic controllers, fighter pilots, and intelligence analysts. These reports detail encounters with the military and civilian pilots attempted to intercept uh, unidentified flying objects, only to witness them perform maneuvers beyond human technology. Radar data from these instances often confirm the identified objects moving at hypersonic speeds and executing turns which would be impossible to conventional aircraft. Brazilian officials have acknowledged that they lack explanation for many of these occurrences, reinforcing the idea that the country of Brazil remains honest and transparent about UFO research. Okay? So there was an incident they call the Roswell incident of Brazil. Okay, Brazil's Roswell. Okay, so this was in an area called the Genha, the Genha, and so it's one of the most famous of all of UFO incidents. In January 1996, the reports emerged that multiple witnesses, including civilians, firefighters, and even military personnel encountered a small extraterrestrial being wandering the streets of Virginia. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, sorry. The creature was described as having a large head, thin body, and dark red eyes. The Brazilian military force reportedly intervened, capturing the being and transporting it to an unknown location. Some eyewitnesses even claim that one soldier died after handling the entity. Allegedly, people said it was because of some unknown infection. To this day, the Brazilian government has remained silent on this case, though. But leaks of the report and whistleblower testimony continue to fuel speculation that this event actually did involve an extraterrestrial contact. Okay? So even though they didn't come out and spill all the beans, obviously there's been plenty of leaks. I just want to make this clear. There's been plenty of leaks, and it seems like they're not really denying that they didn't have an extraterrestrial. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard in anything I've read around the world that Brazil, in this particular case, actually came out kind of, sort of, maybe saying that they had gotten an extraterrestrial. So they also Brazil has had quite a few public UFO hearings. Brazil is among the few countries that have conducted open hearings on UFOs, where military officials, researchers, and aviation experts have discussed extraterrestrial phenomena in an official setting. These hearings often feature witnesses, testimony, footage, government recordings, and offer detailed look at the Brazilian UFO history. One of such landmark hearings took place in 2013 when Brazil's senators and UFO researchers debated the importance of disclosure before a live audience. Okay? Unlike some nations where UFO hearings remain largely restricted, Brazil allowed the public and media access to the discussions surrounding extraterrestrial encounters. Now, I have a feeling that Brazil is obviously, at the forefront of disclosure, okay? And that's why I sort of believe that we have been pushed because of what Brazil has done. We here in the United States have been pushed to be a little more open and maybe get a little closer to disclosure. This one I just told you about was in 2013. And if you go on more recently, yes, it was probably 20 years. But we've had some hearings, public hearings about UFOs recently. So, anyways, I just think Brazil had laid the groundwork. Official recognition of UFOs. In 2010, the Brazilian government made history by officially recognizing UFOs as an official phenomenon, or a legitimate phenomenon, I guess is what I wanted to state. So that was 2010. So that was 15 years ago. This recognition came with new policies allowing researchers greater access to military records detailing UFO events. The government also established protocol for pilots and aviation controllers to report unexplained aerial phenomena and sightings directly to the defense authorities instead of dismissing them as mere anomalies. The discussion of of acknowledgement of UFOs represented a massive shift in Brazil's stance. While some countries remain reluctant to discuss such encounters due to concerns about credibility, Brazil took the bold step of recognizing that UFOs should be investigated seriously. Okay, so then there was, here's another example. So there's this island out there. I believe this is the same island I'm thinking of, Trinidad Island, off the northeastern coast of Brazil. So in 1958, the UFO incident occurred near Trinidad Island, a remote island, where naval officers and civilians allegedly witnessed a disc-shaped craft flying over the ocean. A Brazilian naval photographer managed to capture images of the object, which were later analyzed by experts. The Brazilian authorities conducted an investigation, even acknowledged the authenticity of the images, confirming that they showed an unidentified aerial craft. Now, this was 1958, okay? We know that there was no hanky panky, there was no AI, there was no photoshopping. This turned out it was the real McCoy, according to Brazil. These photographs remain one of the most credible pieces of UFO evidence ever recorded, fueling ongoing debates about extraterrestrial activity. Number 8, the famous San Paulo UFO wave and the fighter jet encounters. This is more recent. In 1986, a major UFO wave occurred in Sao Paulo, leading the government-led investigation known as the Official Night of the UFO. The Official Night of the UFOs. Radar station air traffic controllers, and multiple pilots confirmed tracking over 20 UFOs in the Brazilian airspace. The Brazilian Air Force launched fighter jets to intercept the objects, but pilots were stunned that the UFOs accelerated to speeds beyond the jets and vanished from radar without explanation. The defense authorities admitted that they were unable to identify the flying object, marking one of the few times that the military force publicly acknowledged the inability to explain UFO encounters. Now, 9. Brazil's UFO research organizations. Brazil is the home to some of the most advanced UFO research organizations, including CBPDV. I'm not gonna pronounce all the names in that because they're all in Spanish, and I'm sorry, I'm not lingual in Spanish. So, anyways, CBPDV, you can look it up. These organizations conduct independent investigation, collect evidence, and frequently collaborate with international investigators to study extraterrestrial phenomena. Unlike some nations where UFO research remains heavily restricted, Brazil allows independent investigators full access to military archives, radar reports, and official UFO records, demonstrating the country's commitment. Again, demonstrating the country's commitment to openness. Brazil frequently hosts global UFO conferences where researchers, government officials, and whistleblowers gather to discuss the latest finding in extraterrestrial research. These events provide a platform for exchanging information on sightings, abduction phenomena, and government secrecy surrounding UFO disclosure. Notably, Brazil military members have participated, so the military is allowed to just come and participate in these type of conferences, offering officials statements on past UFO encounters and extraordinary level of openness compared to other nations. Yeah, can you see some jet pilots coming and saying, "Hey, this is what I saw." Although I will give the U.S. a little credit recently. Obviously, there's been a couple pilots that have come forward in those hearings and said some pretty profound things if you're listening. Or I'm not saying you personally, but if we are listening to those hearings. So, in conclusion, Brazil's commitment to UFO transparency is unmatched. From military investigations and public hearings to official government recognition, the country has consistently embraced discussions on extraterrestrial encounters, while other countries continue to withhold critical UFO data. Brazil stands as an example of disclosure, providing this that the search for truth is worth pursuing, proving that the search for truth is worth pursuing. So there you go, Brazil. Been at the front of the pack, leading the pack. So good for you, Brazil. Keep up the good work. We'll see you. Bye bye.